So, Dr. Calum Fraser, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here today. And I think you have one of the most amazing job titles ever. It's Master Blender for Scotch and Irish Whisky at Suntory. That's quite a role. How did you get to where you are today? What was your journey?
You're right. It's a real privilege to be the Master Blender for Scotch and Irish for Suntory Global Spirits, working with globally renowned brands, and as somebody who's Scottish, being associated with Scotch whiskies, fantastic. For me, it is truly the best job ever. In terms of how I got here, probably there isn't a degree as such to become a master blender or indeed a blender. So my roots are very much around science. So I was a chemist by trade, initially doing forensic and analytical chemistry at University in Glasgow. So a bit like CSI type thing.
One of my favourite shows.
And then I moved into a different discipline, synthetic organic chemistry, so a bit more Breaking Bad type thing, so white collar pharmaceutical type chemist. So how that linked to whiskey, very much around the softer skills, problem solving, seeing challenges, overcoming them, being very analytical, and working through problems to succeed. And working in a chemistry lab, you're exposed to lots of aromas, perhaps not as nice as the whiskies I now work with, but lots of aromas, and during that subconsciously I was picking up at very small levels, as it turned out, different aromas and flavours, which when I then applied to work in the world of whiskey, I found that I actually had a good way of picking up flavours and articulating that. That was about 2011, so about 14 years ago, that I entered the world of whiskey, and then worked over the past 14 years with some fantastic mentors, some fantastic master blenders across the Scotch whisky industry that have helped hone my craft to where I am today. And it's just amazing.
And I think that's it, isn't it? It's that craft, that tradition. I talked to Shinji about the idea of craftsmanship and the idea of tradition and how important it is as well, along with modernity. And you talking about learning from some of the best in the business, and that knowledge being kind of taken through. How important for you is tradition when it comes to Scotch whisky?
Oh, this tradition is absolutely the crux of our industry. If I look at the distilleries that I work with, like Bamore and Glengarry, we're going back to the 1700s, and our youngest distilleries, Ardmore, is 1898 that began producing. So we are dealing with centuries of tradition and legacy, and I'm following on from fantastically talented men and women who have really brought the whiskey to where I am today, and I've just got to make sure I carry on that legacy.
And I think that's a really good point. I was saying to Shinji, it's amazing that what you're making now, or what you're putting into barrels now, you may not see the results of, in your lifetime. And I think it's that sense of pride of being able to pass the baton on to the next generation, and to have those building blocks in place so that when the next sort of master blender takes over, they have the right tools, and that must be so important for you on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said at the start, I've got the best job in the world, and it is loads of fun. I go into my work every day with a smile, but I do know that there's a great deal of responsibility, because as you say, the decisions we are making now, the flavour profile of our new mate distillate, the cask types that we procure, that will have a knock-on impact for 12 years, 30 years, 50 years time, and as you say, I may not be around to see that, so I need to make sure, like my predecessors have done for me, that I leave the house in good order for the next generation to carry on.
And I think that's incredible. And I think one of the things that I only just really found out was the work and the money that Beam Suntory is putting back into those distilleries to bring back some of that heritage that, over the years we know whiskey changes and it develops, and it could be market, it could be technique, science, whatever. And one of the most exciting things, I think, is Glengarry.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit about what you've been doing at Glengarry to kind of bring back some of the history and tradition, but still keep it modern and
Absolutely, relevant? Yeah. No, I mean, Glengarry is a real jewel within our portfolio, I've got to say. It maybe doesn't get the
love
and the awareness that are at Isla siblings do at Lafroig and Bamore, but in terms of the new make distillate that we have always produced, but particularly now with all the changes, it's a fantastically complex, robust whiskey in the making. But in terms of what we've done and invested, because quality is absolutely the forefront for us, it's absolutely the priority. So we have invested a significant amount to bring back in the floor maltings operation, which is amazing. Set up the mash tun so that we can bring clear wort into the process. Invested in washbacks to allow for longer fermentation times, and also re-engineered, and I've never heard of this before, re-engineering back in direct fire distillation in our wash still.
That is insane.
Which is amazing.
That must have been quite a moment when you fired up the stills for the first time, and all of you must have been like...
I know. Yeah, I mean, for me in my career, I've never worked with a distillery because there's so few that have direct fire distillation within its setup. Yep. So having that as part of my armoury is amazing, and it's amazing to see the difference that as well as all the other parts that I mentioned previously, when you bring those all together, the complexity and the essence of the new make spirit has just really been enhanced by all these expensive but small changes. All these tweaks have made a huge difference. So I'm really excited by what we're seeing as a young maturing whiskey, what we'll hopefully be able to showcase over the coming years to the wider.
Very excited. And if we break that down, what do you think, if I take each sort of step and each change you've made, if you look at floor maltings, what do you think that's giving to the final distillate?
So I think all aspects for me will allow for overall complexity to be brought in, but I think for the floor malting, it's what I like about the floor malt, the way I kind of picture it is you get consistently get some inconsistencies in the modification of the barley as it turns into malt. So some's under modified, some's over modified. So that variation in the modification of the malt will play a part in terms of the flavours that come through in the new make distillate.
That's so interesting, because you don't think about that, but actually inconsistency creates complexity. And I guess also having a clear wort, that's giving you what to the spirit? Yeah,
so for me, if the wort combined with the minimum 72-hour fermentation, if I can combine those two, for me that gives further clarity to the new make distillate, and it opens up more of the fruity characters to come through in particular. Typically, if you get cloudier wort, it maybe tends to more cereal dominating, whereas what we've envisaged is using clear wort, longer fermentation, and really allow the fruitiness to evolve during both those processes.
And for me, the fact that you've increased fermentation, so many distilleries over the last sort of few years, and I get it, because got to get more liquid in stills, and of course the money people are sort of knocking on the door. That longer fermentation, and I'm obsessed about fermentation, so I'm sorry.
Oh no.
Just gives so much more, and I think it's really amazing that you guys have invested in that time, because it is investing in time.
Absolutely.
I think people don't think about it like that. They're like, what's the difference between 48 and 20 and 77? There's a big difference, because it's time and it has knock-on effects, and I think that's really commendable to invest in that time to give the spirit, as you say, this beautiful character. And I guess with direct fire, it's the weight,
absolutely,
the body and the spirit.
Yeah, and because it's the direct heat on the stills, it allows for further reactions like the Maillard reaction. So it really, again, I use the word complexity, but it's another layer in terms of the flavour, and as you say, the body really gets supported by carrying out that direct fire distillation. So when I compare a very good distillate that we had about 10 years ago, the new make distillate was getting produced, to today, it's amazing. It's it's transformed a very good whiskey, and over the next coming years, hopefully we can showcase exceptional whiskies from Glengarry.
I'm beyond excited, because also Bamore, which I think everyone has in their heart. I think Bamore is any whiskey lover who loves anything that's got these wonderful tropical fruits loves Bamore, and especially old Bamore. The 60s is kind of like the hallowed grounds of whiskey. And you've also invested in Bamore.
Yes.
And I had the immense pleasure, and it was an immense pleasure, of tasting the Fate bottling this year.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, tropical fruits. What have you done to bring that kind of back into Bamore? And I'm a massive fan of Bamore 15, and I think it's always had that. But this was on steroids. Can you talk a little bit about what you've done?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sitting here and I've got the pleasure of sitting here, but a lot of the hard work